worldwide viewerships. James Kalm, the guy on the bike. It's a Thursday evening in Chelsea. We're going to run into Fredericks and Freiser. And we'll try to get some pictures of an exhibition by Cristina de Miguel. Hello. And the show is simply titled New Paintings. Well, I believe you can go back in the Kalm report or the rough cuts 4 or 5 years ago, and it was an exhibition that I helped curate at a space called Freight Volume, and the title of the show is The Decline and the Fall of the Art World, and there was a part 1 and part 2. I helped curate part 1, and Cristina was one of the stars of part 2. And we'll also take a quick sweep of the back gallery. There's Dick Lawrence, Dave Humphreys. It's pretty noisy back here. It's pretty loud here tonight, so I'll have to scream into the microphone. This piece is titled Park Decay 2017. Acrylic, oil, spray paint, colored pencil, and crayon on canvas. And it also looks like she's got some oil stick in there. Well, I got a look at this piece and was sort of thinking about how Cristina might have been influenced a little bit by Julian Schnabel. I guess I could splice in some footage of a show that was recently at the Whitney. It's a painting from the 80s. I think one of the things that Cristina is doing that's interesting is kind of playing the idea of spray paint, street art, action painting, and Neo-Expressionism together. Walking dogs in 100-degree weather. This is 69 by 59. Acrylic spray paint, crayon, and collage on canvas. Well, I was mentioning that Cristina was in a show at Freight Volume that I helped curate part 1 for, and I think that actually Cristina was one of the younger artists that got some attention out of that show. I like her kind of use of multiple types of paint and also a lot of various types of surfaces. Also, something like this, there's a certain kind of restraint. You're leaving the yellow ground, and it's kind of interesting that what looks like a female figure is actually kind of got looks like bird legs. titled 3 Men Ahead in a Plant. Okay, the upside down head, of course, makes me think of baselitz. And, well, I like the way that she's got several types of black here. So we've got, I think it's maybe black acrylic, and then black spray paint. We've got some black oil paint on top of that. And then even on top of that, we've got what looks like maybe black oil stick. It's titled The Procession. 74 by 96, so that's roughly 6 by 8 feet. It actually makes me think of a painting by Bosch. Was the blind leading the blind? Or maybe something by Beckman, The Tin Drum. I think Christina's got a nice feel for her paint, her mediums, and yeah, the way that she's able to mix these together is very effective. There's also a lot of I think references to some of the Neo-Expressionists from the 80s. Jean-Michel Basquiat, as well as Schnabel and some of the Germans. It's titled Incredible Shoulders. (2017). I think this is a painting where she's built up the surface, the facture a little more. And there's a lot of dripping and rivulets of paint coming down that she's painted over. And then there's a little bit of collage in here. Titled Las Saito. This is probably the most straight-ahead, abstract kind of formalistic piece here in the front gallery. And I like her sticking her collage pieces in here. Acrylic oil stick spray painted collage on canvas 60 by 56. It's kind of a rugged urgency, and this collage piece looks like it might have some footprints in there. And yeah, some of this scribbled text maybe refers to Cy Twombly. Let's run in the back gallery. Oh boy, it's even louder back here. It's titled Good Yoga. We got kind of a clown face with a big neon red nose. And again, you got the scribbled in text there. Namashta. Okay, so that must be the chant that the Good Yoga makes. Jeez. It's titled Ram. So Cristina is also using some neon colors there. Got a nice little shot of fluorescent red-orange. I like her surfaces, some of the collaged elements. And there's also, I mean, she's very exuberant, but there's a certain amount of restraint in some of these, which gives you a little space, a little breathing room. This music is math. Okay, so I like the, we've got the scribbles, the crayon, we've got some splashed on, poured on acrylic, we got some spray paint lines, kind of a thin washy area, looks like acrylic. Ed is dead. Acrylic oil crayon spray paint. This is 74 by 60. Yeah, many of these are almost like a potpourri of various types of Neo-Expressionism. James Kalm reporting on Cristina de Miguel, new paintings at Fredericks and Freiser, 536 West 24th Street in Chelsea. We're going to roll on. Well, now we're on West 17th Street, and we're going to run into this Scully studio to see work by Ben Godward. Hello. Because Scully is maybe one of the more well-known, highly recognized painters on the New York scene.
Glad you opened it one night.
Oh, there's Ben. And, yeah, gosh, I guess this shows what happens if you can become a successful painter here in New York. We're going to look at some of Ben's paintings. I think you could probably go back in the Kalm report maybe a year and a half ago or so and see another show that he did at Slag Gallery out in Bushwick, where he presented some of these works, but smaller examples. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of these pieces close up. It's titled Ruptures and Whims, 2017, 50 by 40. Well, I think that the show that Ben had out in Bushwick maybe a year and a half ago, he was showing works that were like this, but they were maybe 2/3 this size. And, well, we'll talk a little bit about his process. This is titled Today Was Going to Be the Day, 2017, urethane resin. Now, I think Ben actually considers himself a sculptor. Oh, this is an interesting aspect. Now, I love to look at paintings or sculpture at a kind of like a forensic crime scene detective. So what we've actually started out with here, I believe, are, it's got a little, it's like a tank, a very narrow, flat tank of plexiglass. And then he starts to pour in various levels of resin. And the fun part is when he decides he wants to do some variations on the layering. So in this particular piece, well, I'll let you think about how he does that. So he pours down the paint, sort of maybe tilts it on an angle like this, lets it dry out for a while, pours in the other thing on the other side, another chartreuse pour. Oh, this is an interesting development. This is titled, If You Weren't, What Would We Talk About? Okay, this one is fun because I like the way he's kind of playing in these angular pours. And also he's got this kind of cobalt blue transparent pour that came in on the side. As I was saying, Ben actually considers himself I guess a sculptor. And what I like about the work and what I think actually is very painterly about it is the fact that although Ben is working with resins and planes of forms and very material parts of things, that all of these materials, or at least the resins that he's working with, are also colored. And so in that way, he's not like someone like the late Richard Smith or some of the other sculptors who are making painted sculpture. He's actually using a poured material that is color. And so in that way, it's kind of combining the sense of the materials painters with I don't know, maybe there is a type of sculpture that's all dealing with the ideas of resins and poured and molded forms. So I like his color sense in this piece. This is titled A Good Marriage. And, well, Ben did get married recently. Also, I like he's notched out the corners on here. Also, I like the way he's displaying these. Normally you would have a painting and you would have it hanging on the wall. Ben has actually made these little plexiglass troughs or little shelves. So in that way, these pieces are not being hung, they're being propped up. And so in that way, they have a more object-like presence. This is titled Gravy Days and Golden Years 2017. Yeah, so as I was explaining how these things are created, you really have to kind of work backwards. Think about what you would pour down first. And, well, that's kind of fun. You know, these do kind of relate to some of the action painters or the Washington Color School. Maybe Morris Lewis, his stain paintings. Also, I like some of the depth you get with the clear pooling of some of the resins that aren't pigmented. Well, here is a perfect example of one of Ben's sculptures. So we've got, I don't know what that is, a 10-foot ladder, 12-foot ladder. And, okay, that kind of imposes itself in the space and exerts itself upwards. Then within that structure, you've got other open spaces. And, well, Ben does an interesting job of kind of filling those spaces up with colored forms. Okay. It's also good. Some of these are flush on the front side. Some are flush on the back side. Okay, we're going to just stroll down this shelf of smaller pieces. I'm not going to give you the titles. I think these are all about 10 by 10. Gee, suddenly I get kind of a sense of a landscape there with kind of a burst of sunlight coming through the clouds. I don't know, maybe I'm seeing too much. Okay. Looks like a tornado. Again, I think Ben has got a nice color sense, and that's not easy when you're dealing with a lot of very synthetic things. I like the little dots. I wonder how that happened. Chunky. Okay, I'm not going to say what that makes me think about. Also, it's great. You can put these up. They work on the front side or on the back side. I'm actually surprised at the way that Ben is able to get a very geometric kind of feel with some of these. You would think that the pouring and the pooling would lend itself more to a kind of a more what they call an organic curvilinear forms. Oh, this is an interesting piece. I like the little blips, the little bubbles, dots. I wonder what chemical process made that happen.
Lose my number. Move your shit out of the apartment.
James Kalm, bringing you along for a tour of Ben Godward's sculptures here at the Scully studio in Chelsea. Okay, now we're at 106 Forsyth Street at Lyles and King Gallery. It's a new space. I haven't been in here. One of the more rugged spaces on the Lower East Side. And we're going to look at an exhibition by Chris Dorland. I popped in here and insinuated myself in the gallery about 5 minutes before closing time. And, well, I just spoke with Chris about 5 minutes ago. He said, come over and see the show. I believe this piece is titled Untitled Overlook, UV ink on aluminum. Well, Chris is one of the people that's using a lot of what was known as new media, new mediums, and he's doing some video work. This is titled Untitled. Maybe we should just go with Untitled on most of these. Single channel video, 9-second loop. Edition of 1 of 3. So I guess it's varying sizes, but this particular screen is about 48 by 24, something like that. Okay. Well, I first bumped into Chris's work. I guess this is probably 8 or 9 years ago at a gallery, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but it's no longer there. It was in West Chelsea. And, well, Chris had curated a show, and Walter Robinson was one of the people that he featured in there, so of course I had to pop in and look at that. This is, of course, Untitled Drift Upload 2017. This is 94 by 46. You know, I'm not a big fan of a lot of digital printing, but in certain ways I kind of like it when you push the medium to the point that you lose just the kind of the photographic cursory illusion or the kind of the initial intent, and you sort of get a residue of the material. Also, I like the way that he's kind of playing with the breakdown of the digital image. Air Ranger, 94 by 46. This is unique. And again, we've got some pigment, photographic images. Again, we've got the breakdown of the image, which I like it, kind of breaking into strange color things. And, well, I can't analyze the psychological content of the juxtaposition of the images. That's kind of a nice element. We've got the broken glass, and it's actually on a surface that looks like a piece of glass, so you get a nice kind of allegorical echo of reality versus illusion or representation. Now, I assume that our metal studs here are part of the installation, or maybe we've gotten here when the gallery is still working on designing the second space and the storage. Coil wine. Okay. So we've got two screens here. Dual channel. Well, I think one of the people that reviewed one of Chris's previous shows talked about how he was a scavenger of popular media, all that stuff you see on TV and on the internet. Okay, so this is host receptacle gender recall. So we've got kind of a little suite of these vertical pieces. Anthracite, UV ink on aluminum. I also think you would have a hard time avoiding references to Robert Rauschenberg and some of his silkscreen pieces from the 60s, except that a lot of this is kind of visual white noise, or the kind of where electric media breaks down, and you start to get these strange, almost like primordial flashes of maybe Sir Isaac Newton's theories about color or some other odd, obscure ghost in the machine. This is titled Cold Wine. Okay, so this is interesting. We've actually got a fairly large readable image of a hand. Hand is holding something. Is that a video camera? Could be. Up your day. Okay, so we've also, not only is the image breaking down, but the text is breaking down. Jacques Derrida would be very happy about that. Okay, so that was Chris Dorland. What's the name of the gallery again? Lyles and King, 106 Forsyth Street, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And thank you, Kate. Oh, thank you. That was sweet. Very sweet.